We all watched it. It was Super Bowl 58. The Chiefs won the game in overtime. And I was trying to figure out the right way to go about discussing and reacting to Super Bowl 58, Chiefs, 49ers. And Phillip Jordan is the guy that came to my head. He's the host of the Phillip Jordan Show. Been around for a long time, Phillip. You've been on this show numerous times, and I'm glad to have you back this week to react to the Chiefs winning another Super Bowl.
Jay, I appreciate you having me on. I know don't let my Twitter handle, P Jordan SEC, fool everybody. I'm Mr. NFL, college, whatever, football. But yeah, I'm glad to be on. Interesting game. A lot to discuss. But we just got to shake it off. That's just all we got to do.
I like what you did there. I like that. This game to me had a little bit of everything. Had phenomenal coaching, had some poor coaching, had some interesting calls by the refs on both sides, had players getting injured, had good quarterback play, had fumbles in the first quarter by both teams. Ultimately, took an overtime moment for the Chiefs to win this game. When I think about this game and Patrick, I almost said Phillip Rivers. I don't want to go back in time. When I think about Patrick Mahomes and the game that he had and ultimately winning, was it 3 Super Bowl MVPs now? I am amazed at what he's done so far in his career, his young career. I am astonished that he's able to do it over and over and over. And Phillip, in the moment, I said it to you off the air. I'm going to say it again right now. To me, he had a Tom Brady moment. In the fourth quarter and in overtime, I didn't really think it was going to happen. I didn't. You put together a long drive. You find a way to get the 49ers out of sync, not on the same page. I can't give all the credit to Patrick Mahomes. It's a team sport, the ultimate team sport. But he had one of those moments where in the moment, Phillip, I'm saying, wait a minute. We're going to be talking about this drive for years and years and years to come.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs have replaced the New England Patriots. I mean, they've taken that spot. Patrick Mahomes, it's like he's almost inevitable that end of the game. I mean, when they went up 19, when they went up by 3 points, they kicked the field goal in overtime. I was like, they're done. There's no way I don't think Patrick Mahomes is not going to go down there and score a touchdown.
Right?
I mean, that's why I disagreed with the 49ers taking the ball. I would have kicked it first. Because my reason why, I feel like either scenario, Kansas City was going to score a touchdown when they got the ball first in overtime. All right, well, you know what you need to do. You can go down, score a touchdown, and go for 2 and end it. And just do it that way. But it's just one of the things. I mean, you just can't stop it. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, they just found a way. And then the thing about it, the biggest plays on that drive were made outside of the touchdown throw with his legs. 4th and 1, big run. I mean, Mahomes doesn't run the ball a lot, but when he has to, he makes some big runs. And another thing with him over the years now, this year especially, he's patient now.
Yeah.
He's not going to force it. Obviously, without Tyreek Hill, they do not have the big play wide receivers like they did before with Tyreek Hill, who's now in Miami. But he's learned patience, and he's got Travis Kelce, and it's kind of what Brady had. We all, in the whole lead up to this game, everybody talks about how Brock Purdy is a game manager. That's what Patrick Mahomes has been this year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a negative thing.
Not at all.
Little tease for the Phillip Jordan Show, former quarterback and alternative league football quarterback Brandon Silvers. I had him on the show. We talked about this. And I said, isn't game manager what the quarterback's supposed to be? He goes, yeah, you manage the game. Basically, I'm paraphrasing what he said. That's the quarterback's job, to manage the game. And Patrick Mahomes did it really, really well to end that game.
You talk about that comparison with the Chiefs and Patriots, and it's very similar in different ways. Early on, there were really good plays by tight ends for the Patriots. Now, they didn't have a Travis Kelce back then at the beginning of that run, but they had good tight end play. They had good offensive line play. Now, the Chiefs' offensive line, I don't think is as good consistently as the Patriots' O-line was, but you still have really good O-line play. The one thing that I think is very interesting in the comparisons, the running backs don't matter. The receivers don't matter. The constant is the quarterback, the offensive line, and you figure out with the pieces you have on the team. It's so weird to look at Tom Brady and his run, the first one with the Patriots and the second one with the Patriots. You got Wes Welker in there. You got Danny Amendola in there. The other receivers you don't really know about, was it Deion Branch? I think was one of the guys. There were some guys that I realized and I remember a little bit by face because the Patriots dominated the Colts for a lot of that rivalry in the early 2000s. I don't want you. I hope if I saw a smirk in your face or a smile, Phillip, I'm only a little upset because I'm still a little sore about that time period of my life.
I just remember those games. I just remember Corey Dillon playing for the Patriots back in the day, and that because you brought up, we think about Brady, we think of how he, when his career ended, throwing the ball around. Those first three teams, Tom Brady was a game manager.
Yes,
he was. Corey Dillon running the ball. And a couple of receivers I remember, maybe I'm dating myself here. David Patton, who caught the one. He caught the touchdown against the Rams, against the greatest show on turf. And Troy Brown was another one there. So they were built on their defenses. Those guys they had on their defenses. Yeah. But yeah. It wasn't a smirk that I was glad that the Colts lost. I was, kind of sometimes rooting for Peyton Manning to get over the hill on that one. But yeah, I just remember those. I just remember those encounters. But it was always back then, the Colts always had to go to New England.
Yeah.
Finally, in 2006, I felt like The Rock saying finally. But anyways, when they got the Patriots in Indianapolis, in the Dome, when they beat them before they won that Super Bowl against the Bears.
It's weird, man, the comparison between those two teams and those runs. The Patriots defense was dominant. The Chiefs defense was really good this year. I think it's a lot better than people even gave them credit for. When you look back at the numbers and what they did and how many points they gave up, it's like, wait, this defense it's not just like your average defense. They were a big reason why the Chiefs won the Super Bowl this year. But when you think about like the game manager, that word, that phrase, I don't like the way that it's utilized in sports and public football conversations. I usually say it's poor analysis, Phillip, because a quarterback is supposed to manage the game. I don't care if you're Michael Vick, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Steve Young, Phillip Rivers, as I say his name on purpose this time, Dan Orlovsky. I don't know. I don't care what you are. Your job is to manage the game. You can be a triple option quarterback that plays for Nebraska, or you can be a spread quarterback that doesn't run the ball at all. You manage the game with your skill set. People use it to knock Brock Purdy, but no, he's a phenomenal quarterback who is a game manager. Patrick Mahomes is the same way, just like Tom Brady. My one thing that I've seen people say, Phillip, in reaction to this game, not going to go back and break down quarter by quarter because it's people have done that so much over the first 24 hours of the game actually being played. This is not the place for that. But one thing people do when they talk about Patrick Mahomes, oh, he's on the Mount Rushmore already, or he is an all-time great, or he's the best I've ever seen. The one thing I say with hesitation to that, he hasn't played long enough to be in those conversations. It's very much like, let's say, a running back, really good running back. 3 out of the first 4 years he's in the NFL, wins 3 rushing titles, has the most rushing touchdowns in 2 of those 4 years, but then he's done due to a career-ending injury. You would not say he's the best running back of all time because of the time period he's been put in playing the football. Patrick Mahomes, if he does this for another 5 years, I might say he's up there. I might say he's maybe better than Tom Brady. To me right now, I still got to give Tom Brady the nod. But mainly, I don't think Patrick Mahomes has played long enough to be in these all-time or Mount Rushmore conversations.
And then, yeah, I've seen it too. People are already wanting Patrick Mahomes to pass Tom Brady. Well, one, he's got 4 more Super Bowls to win.
Right.
And then he's got to play till he's 45 years old. That's the thing that I think we all talk about the Super Bowls, right? With Brady. And obviously championships, that's the important part. But still the longevity. And I know his last year in Tampa didn't go good. But I also think Tom seemed like he had some other stuff going on
Yeah.
with the family. So I'm not going to really knock him for that. But the man played till he was 45 years old and at a very high level. Because the year before, you can argue at age 44, he should have won the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the best players in the league. And at 44, I mean, we see quarterbacks play to 40, but still doing what he did at that level. So Patrick Mahomes has to prove that he has the longevity. He's got to win more Super Bowls. And also, Tom proved something about himself when he went from New England to Tampa Bay. He won one without Bill Belichick. Can Patrick Mahomes, we'll find out eventually if he could win one without Andy Reid, because Andy Reid's not a young man. He's going to retire probably soon. I just feel that way about him just watching him. So that's another thing. That's what adds to the legend of Tom Brady. He went to Tampa Bay when everybody thought he was done. A lot of people thought he couldn't play anymore after everything that happened with New England. He goes to Tampa Bay with a better supporting cast, and he wins another Super Bowl. So that's another thing with Tom that makes him the GOAT.
You know, that question or that thought about Mahomes simply going to a Super Bowl without Andy Reid, not simply winning one, simply getting there is hard enough, but to win one without the coach that has been the constant since he's been in the National Football League will speak volumes about the coach. I mean, the player that he is. One thing, and I'm always going to be a Peyton Manning guy. Always, it's not going to change. One thing I love about Peyton Manning was he left. Well, he was kicked out of Indianapolis after he had a really bad shoulder injury, missed the entire year, went to Denver, broke records, but still found a way with a different coach, a different scene. Not really, even in that year, Phillip, not being able to really throw the ball past 10 yards. Like, his arm was shot at that point in time. But he found a way to win in adverse situations, up there in age, without the coach or coaches that got him to be the quarterback that he was in Indianapolis. It's a lot to really sit here and say, hey, Patrick Mahomes is going to do this with anybody. It's really tough to make those comments because you don't know what's going to happen. A new head coach could come in. Eric Bieniemy could go back, but not be the head coach. And it could be a totally different feel and vibe for the Kansas City Chiefs. Will he go somewhere else? I don't know. He signed a 10-year contract worth $500 million. So I don't know if he'll go and be traded, because that's a lot of money to acquire for a new franchise. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But man, I'm sitting here thinking, like, it's highly unlikely another quarterback will be able to go to another team and win without the coach that made them, help them become famous and make a lot of money and help them be who they are. For Peyton to do it, it was great. For Brady to do it, not great on my part. I couldn't stand it. But for his career as a whole, it was good for his career. Joe Montana, did he do anything with the Chiefs? No. You see quarterbacks that are all over the place. NBA, I like NBA basketball. Scottie Pippen went from the Bulls to the Blazers. Really good team, but couldn't get past Phil Jackson and the Lakers and Kobe and Shaq. So just because you're really good at what you do doesn't mean a new scene, a new city, or a new coach will also help you have the same success you had prior to going to a new city or that new coach running the team.
You know, I know we're talking Super Bowl here. You talk about Pippen. Between Chicago and Portland, he went to Houston during the lockout.
I forgot about that. My gosh.
He was with Barkley and Olajuwon.
And I think Clyde Drexler too.
And they were the 5 seed and got beat by the Lakers pre-Phil Jackson.
Yes.
In that playoff. And here's another thing. How will Patrick Mahomes be without Travis Kelce? Because Kelsey's older than him. And we have seen, look, I'll say this, and I know they just won the Super Bowl, and Kelce played great in the playoffs. But if I was starting a team, the tight end in that game I'm taking is George Kittle. I think George Kittle's right now a better player than Travis Kelce. And, you know, I hope nobody has bad blood over me saying that comment. Anyways, I think people know what I just did there. But how will Patrick Mahomes be without Travis Kelce? Because, you know, that was the thing with Brady. You know, we keep talking about the comparison with him and Brady. the longevity. Brady went through different tight ends, different receivers, just supporting cast. And look at it. They could have won that game in regulation. Rice was open, but where did Mahomes go with the ball? He went where he trusted. He trusted Travis Kelce. It was incomplete. What happens with him? What kind of leader is he without Travis Kelce? Because I think the leadership of that team is when it comes to the players, there's three guys. It's Jones on defense, and then of course it's Mahomes and Kelce. But I kind of wonder how Mahomes is going to do when Kelce's no longer able to play. Because look, this is the NFL. We know good and well if it comes to it where he's not being helpful for the team, they'll probably move on from Kelce. And like I said, he's getting older, and I think we saw signs of him slowing down this season.
Think about this, though, Phillip. Talking about Travis Kelce. Let's go with throw his brother in there, too. Jason Kelce's 36 years old. Travis Kelce's 34. We're talking about a quarterback in Tom Brady who played till he's 45 years old. That's insane. We're watching in real time LeBron James, and it don't matter if you watch his games every night, once a month, or never. You know LeBron James. You know he's still playing NBA basketball, and he's almost 40 years old. We're in a weird era in sports where guys that are normally at that age, they're at home with their kids rolling around on the ground. They're still playing the sport they love at a high level. I don't know how much longer Travis Kelce can go, because I think part of my wife talked about this too before the game even started. She said Travis Kelce looked nervous, and it was not just like a nerve, like a football game or the Super Bowl. It seemed more nervous than normal, and I wonder. This has nothing to do with Taylor Swift at all. Nothing. So I'm going to get that out there right now. I wonder if he is thinking about hanging it up soon. Maybe a year, maybe 2 years, whatever it may be. Because if he's 34, 35, and let's just say Taylor Swift and him get married, and they want to have a family, I don't know if he wants to do all of that and play football. That's a big. We were talking about earlier about commitments about podcasting and my family dynamic, where I'm about to have a kid in July. The dynamic of adding a child into your life, it's a huge responsibility, and it's a huge time requirement as well. Let's just say hypothetically, that's what they want. Taylor Swift and Kelce get married, they have a family. I don't know if that may be what pulls him away, because I see Jason Kelce on the YouTube show that him and his brother have, and then the documentary he had on Amazon Prime. He seems like a true family man, which might be pulling on him leaving the NFL here soon. I don't know if he's officially retired, but I've been seeing a lot that Jason Kelce might be done. Dude, I don't know, man, because if Travis Kelce is gone, I wonder what Patrick Mahomes is going to be, because you can only do so much with guys that are average players. You can only do so much with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously his contract, I mean, he makes a lot of money. And that makes it harder. I
forgot how big the contract was until I said it. I was like, oh gosh, that's a lot.
Yeah, and that makes it harder to build around. I mean, that's why Tyreek Hill's not there anymore. You know? I mean, so we'll see. We'll see. And like I said, when those things that have been familiar to you are gone, that's going to be interesting. And I'll tell you one, because, you know, look, I don't ever hide from it. Everybody knows me. I know I'm a Packer fan. Favre wasn't the same without Mike Holmgren.
No, he was not.
And Troy Aikman was not the same without Jimmy Johnson. I mean, they still won a championship with Barry Switzer, which if anybody needs to go, just Google what Troy Aikman thought about Barry Switzer. I mean, that's
I've heard that name in a long time. My gosh.
Yeah. And I'm dating myself a little bit, probably, by saying some of these things too. But we've seen it. We've seen in sports. I mean, Kobe Bryant without Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
It's not the same when you lose that guy. Now, Tom Brady kind of, I guess for Belichick, it was him without Brady, not Brady without Belichick. So it was more for Belichick on his deal. But we've seen this before. Certain guys, they lose that coach. And it doesn't, so it's not the same thing. Look, Michael Jordan never won a championship without Phil Jackson. So,
Phillip, I am thinking about the 49ers at this point. Lost in 2020, lost in 2024. both games they lost to the Chiefs, and I am wondering, what do they do? Do they need to get more? Because defense was really, really good. However, they got hit with so many injuries in this game, and I wonder how that impacted the outcome. Because if they're fully healthy for all 60, 70 minutes of play, they might have won the game.
Debo Samuel is a big part of what they do. Him getting hurt was a big deal because you remember when they played Green Bay, and because I remember the next week when the 49ers played the Lions, Greg Olson talked about this, that over half their offense is created around Debo Samuel. Well, when he goes out, Kyle Shanahan doesn't have another Debo Samuel. So half their playbook goes out the door because those plays are built for him. And then, Christian McCaffrey, look, the fumble on the first possession, that was huge. I mean, I know the Chiefs didn't score off of it, but it looked like the 49ers were on their way. They were up 10 in this one. They were up 10 against the Chiefs the last time. It's kind of one thing. I think overall this year, I don't think defense was as great because, when they got Chase Young with Bosa, you're kind of like, oh, man, this team's going to be a terror. It kind of didn't work out that way. Obviously, the linebacker situation too. It's wild, Jay, because it's like they're so talented. And Brock Purdy is not why they lost. He is someone you could build upon. He has a tremendous future in the league. They're kind of like the Buffalo Bills. They're good. They just can't get past these Chiefs. The only team that really is the Achilles heel of the Chiefs. That's Joe Burrow and the Bengals.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, just think about it. They're the team that has stopped this team from getting to the 5 straight Super Bowls. Because you look at it, you mentioned it, they won the Super Bowl. They lost the Super Bowl. And then the Bengals lost to the Rams. The Chiefs won last year, and they won this year. And the Bengals knocked them out. That's one of the teams the Bengals had to beat to get to the Super Bowl the year they got there. And we've seen in the regular season, Joe Burrow has had success against this Chiefs team. The Bengals have given them issues. So I guess it's good for the Chiefs that Joe Burrow got hurt this year and they didn't make the playoffs. But that seems like that is the one team that can get them. That and look, Tom Brady's retired, so any team he's playing isn't going to be there because New England and Tampa Bay. We don't remember when they did the Super Bowl. So yeah, it's any team with Tom Brady and the Bengals are right now the only teams that can be the Achilles heel of this Chiefs team. So I just don't know what the 49ers do. I guess you just got to hope and pray to get the Super Bowl again next year, and it's not against the Chiefs.
This thought came into my head, and I'm going to do a little spin on college football too. So bear with me. We both love the sport of college football, both cover it in different areas. And I was thinking about like Super Bowl cities and Super Bowl sites. It was in Vegas this year. I think it's in New Orleans next year. I think it's in LA back-to-back years. I think it's Levi Stadium. Well, not technically LA. I think California. I think one year it's Levi Stadium. I think another year it's SoFi again. But I was wondering, like, do you think Super Bowl? There's been conversation in college football by people that are very powerful in the sport that the Rose Bowl should host the national championship in college football every single year. I'm not going there, but do you think that the Rose Bowl should get back in the running and should try to host Super Bowls once again?
It's the big enough stadium. You're in LA, and it would look great on TV. That's another thing. I would rather see it there than at SoFi.
Yeah, it's such a weird stadium to me. Just like Allegiant Stadium, you would think these big buildings they would seat a lot of people. Allegiant Stadium only seats I think 65,000. I think SoFi is like 70, can go to 100. I'm like, if you're going to expand it to 100,000 people, just keep it there automatically. Like, just do that. But no, like it's weird.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of going back to a city you not too long ago went to.
Right.
Like there's other cities like why have you? Well, I know Miami is always tricky because you worry about the rain. But I'm also not against that because football is supposed to be played in the elements.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I don't mind dome, so I'm just saying no. But Miami is a city you could be in. I mean, Atlanta. Go to Atlanta. Atlanta's got a new stadium. I don't believe they've been to the Atlanta new stadium for Super Bowl yet. If they have, I'm sure somebody on the internet will correct me. I think one, I've seen some stuff. The Titans maybe down the road could get a new stadium. Nashville. I mean, Nashville's a very happening place right now. I mean,
Yes.
people love Nashville. You get the country music side into it and all that other stuff. Yeah, there's plenty of different places you could do this. Same thing with college football. I mean, I feel like we go to the same places all the time there. I feel like Las Vegas is going to happen eventually for the college football national championship game. I just feel like that's going to happen. I'm trying to think, what are some places in college football we haven't been to really? I just said Nashville. If they get a new stadium, can you imagine how good a national championship game of college football would be in Nashville, Tennessee?
Oh gosh,
because you're in the SEC, and of course I know you cover Ohio State. And,
no, you're fine. You're fine.
You're a Big Ten country, but I'm just saying the passion. And look, let's be honest, the weather will be a whole lot better than it is in some places too.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's another thing. I said the elements, but at the same time, I don't want to see a championship game played in the snow in New York like we had that year between the Broncos and the Seahawks. I don't want that either. But yeah, one of the better cities you keep hearing that was Indianapolis was one of the better host cities, which they're experienced with the Big Ten championship game every year. So yeah, there's other spots. I don't think we'll ever get one in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Hey, put a dome over Lambeau. That might do it.
Yeah. Poor Lambeau. I mean, it's probably the most tradition-filled stadium in the league. But there's no chance. I think that's why they said, okay, we can put the draft there, but we can't do anything else for you.
No, you're right. You're right there. Now, I was thinking about that because I'm not one, do I think the national championship in college football should always be in the Rose Bowl? No. However, if it's every 4 years and that's the other 3 years, there's like a rotation of cities, but the fourth year it's always a Rose Bowl. Yeah, I would be in favor of that all the time. I do get tired though with the Super Bowl site always being like the same places over and over and over. And I understand there's a bid, you have to bid, and your city has to have so much, and I'm sure there's a history of hosting big sporting events. You mentioned Indianapolis. It's like a sneaky good place to host a sporting event. The NBA All-Star Game is going to be there this coming weekend. They've hosted Super Bowl, NBA All-Star Game even before this week. 8,500 every single year. 300,000 people flock to Speedway, Indiana for a 500-mile race around an oval. It's the weirdest thing in the world, but that place is rocking every single year. Can't do baseball. There's no Major League Baseball team, so you can't host the World Series. But they host so many events. Any convention comes here. It's very weird how that works out. But I do think, though, Super Bowl sites need to get more of a rotation. I don't know how far up north you would want to go. Indianapolis works because it's inside. If they put a new stadium in St. Louis, that would work because it's inside. But like Soldier Field in Lambeau, like you mentioned, that wouldn't work at all. New York, no. Seattle's weird because the rain comes into it. Like you're outdoors and it's rainy. It's a rain all the time. So there's some of these beautiful stadiums you just can't get to. But I get tired of New Orleans. I used to get tired of Atlanta with the Georgia Dome, but then it kind of went over that a little bit. I do want to see more variety with those stadiums. Let's go to college football here, Phillip. You're here. You're a big college football guy. Do you think that with the new format that the first round, I don't know how we got to college football. It wasn't even planned. Guys, bear with me. This is what we do. Every show, we find a way to put this sport in the conversation. Do you like that the first round in the 12-team playoff is going to be in home stadiums on campus at schools?
I like it, but I'm also going to say this. I don't like the second round because
I don't either. I don't.
Here's why. So you're one of the 4 best teams in the country, but you don't get to host a home game, but 5, 6, 7, 8, dude. I don't like that. I would prefer. I'm cool with the semifinals and the championship game being neutral site. Obviously, the championship game is going to be that way. I mean, fine with semifinals. But yeah, the second round, that needs to be at home sites too. But I think I saw even they talked about, and maybe it's more teams in the Big Ten talk about, if they're close enough to an NFL stadium. I guess like if Michigan was in it, they would play where the Lions play because it's indoors and won't be as bad. I'm not for that. I won't. If they're going to be on campuses, be on campuses. Don't put them in NFL stadiums. But that's going to be fun. But yeah, I don't like that the top 4 teams aren't going to get to have a home game. I hope they can figure out a way. But we know what that's about. We know it's to appease the bowl people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's 100% what that is. I mean, if we think the bowl games don't matter in the 14 playoffs, you just wait until this 12 team. The bowl games are just going to be. I will probably follow where if Auburn is in a bowl game or Troy or certain teams, but I'm probably not going to sit and try to want to watch every single bowl like I do now. It's hard enough to watch them. They are preseason light games, and I didn't mean to turn the playoff discussion into a rant on the bowl system, but Jay, I tried watching some of them things. It was hard. I mean, these aren't even the teams that were anywhere close to the teams that were playing in the regular season when you get down to the rosters. So it's just, yeah. I'll say this. The group of 5 teams, I'll watch their bowls because that's pretty much their players. They're still playing. They got a little bit more of a care, but the Power 4 now, man, those players ain't going to be playing that. And, Nick Saban always said this. I can't believe I brought Nick Saban into this.
I can.
With everything going on in college football, you know what he always said? Is this what we want college football to be? NIL, transfer portal. He always talked about how the playoff really made the polls look weaker. He talked about it. I mean, Nick Saban said all these things. So it's I talked to somebody earlier. We're in the new era of college football. The college football that we knew, it's gone. We're in the new era. So we'll see.
I want to go back to the NFL in a second, but you brought up Nick Saban and talking about, is this what we want the sport to be? I think the sport was in a healthier spot beginning of the BCS and then middle of the BCS. Like shortly after Urban won, LSU won, I think in 09 or 08. And then once Saban got to Alabama, he started his run and people got a little upset with the BCS system. Once they voiced their opinion and people, whoever's running the sport, decided we're going to change the format to a playoff, we slowly started to get away from the health of the sport. Dude, the sport was so much better when there was no national championship game. And I hate saying that because I love this sport and I love that there's finally a national championship game. But it was healthier and so much more popular, and people enjoyed it way more. And I think the rivalries were more vicious and more vile back then, which makes things more fun to me. I don't like, as much as I love it, this is not the sport that I grew up. And I grew up in the BCS era. Like, I fell in love with the college football when the BCS era was already instituted. And I was like, oh, you're going to that game? I don't know about you, Phillip, but to me, the BCS National Championship games feel bigger than the CFP National Championship games do currently. I don't know your stance there. I'm curious to hear it, but that's where I felt for a long time. I think back and look back. Even the old Orange Bowls in like 04 and 05, I'm like, these games feel bigger in the BCS era than they do now, and I'm not sure why.
Well, I think the 14 playoff did that. It said, okay, if you're not one of those 4 teams, the rest of these games don't matter. And then, of course, with players opting out, I'm for the expanded playoff. I want to see. I'd rather see those games than what we're getting in the bowl games.
I agree with that.
They're just going to matter more. And I don't know. I've always did. And look, I'm in the South. College football rules down here. It is the top, and especially in Alabama. But I've always kind of not liked it. If you lost a game, your season was over.
Yeah.
And that's college football is the only brand of football where we have that. In high school, you can lose a couple games. As long as you're in your region, you make the playoffs. Obviously, the NFL. Now, I don't want to see a 6-16 win a national championship. I'm not saying that like we've seen the New York Giants do when they went 8-8 or 9-7 or 10-6. But I would like to see more teams have that opportunity because sometimes look, we don't have preseason in college football. You start the season, that's it. You don't have warm-up games like you do in the NFL. In high school, you got jamborees and kind of exposition games too. So you start the season, you might not have the right quarterback, or you're in our transfer portal. These teams are gelling. So at the end of the year, you may have a team get hot and can do something. So I'm actually for it, but I tell you what thing that bothers me: the transfer portal. I think a lot of old school people, fans, like to say, I don't like NIL. I have no problem with NIL. I mean, look, these guys were getting paid before it wasn't legal. I mean, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, Jay, but I'm just saying we all know the shenanigans that have gone on in this sport.
Especially in the South.
Hey, I call it. Hey, it happens. But nobody, tattoos. I mean, people get tattoos and get in trouble too. I'm sorry, Jay. I had to go there. Anyways,
that pisses me off, man. They did those kids so dirty.
I know. That was the first thing that popped in my head with Ohio State. But I thought you were only supposed to be able to transfer once. I'm seeing guys play for 4 or 5 different schools, and that's the same college football, college athletics. You're supposed to take a player, and as a player, you're supposed to associate yourself with a school. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get some things are bad situations, and you leave one time. These guys going to 3 or 4 different schools is getting ridiculous, and I think that's going to hurt the game just because you don't have that cohesiveness. And there's sloppiness about it. And it goes for college basketball too. But I think they need to have some better rules with the portal. And another reason why I don't like the portal, as you know, I cover high school football, and you do as well. Mm-hmm. The transfer portal hurts high school kids. Because now teams are saying, because we're in the same window, the early signing period and the transfer portal are in the same window. So if you're a team, you say, well, I could sign a high school kid, but I've seen this guy play college football. I know what he's capable of doing. I'll go get him instead. Now, I've seen other high school coaches. I've seen other people bring this out. They should have it where the transfer portal does not open until after the early signing period.
Yeah.
So then, because I think Kirby Smart, and I'm paraphrasing what he said. He said, it's like you kind of go pick up something you need at the store.
Yeah.
You're not getting all the groceries with the transfer portal, but it's like you're going to the drugstore or the dollar store or something like that. Yeah, I just want to get a few things here, but I don't want to buy all my groceries here. So it's just, I don't know. I kind of wish, just because of what I do covering high school football, I kind of wish they would change that timeline. I think the transfer portal is hurting the sport more than anything else.
I'm right there with you. I think it's hurting it. I heard Doug Gottlieb say an easy way to fill, a big problem. It's not that players can transfer easily. You don't need to seek a waiver. Like, that's not the problem. It's not not forcing kids to sit out a year, because you're going to, like, part of college is an education. That's the only reason that colleges exist. It's for an education. Athletics comes second. Players are transferring. I really wonder how it's impacting the graduation rates of these schools. Now, not in a great way, because not like in totality, you're not going to have a large number of players transfer in and out every single year. That's going to impact your graduation rate of the university. But dude, you transfer, not all your credits move with you. So now, if you're sitting out a year, you're getting your school in check, and you're staying up to date with where you're supposed to be, so you're not forced to stay a 5th year to graduate. There's so many different angles to this, but let's kind of move back to the NFL. Talk about problems in college football, things we would like to see fixed. Also, a little stadium fun conversation there that I really never had with you, but I really enjoyed that. Last thing here, though, Phillip, what in the NFL would you like to see changed heading into next season?
Well, overtime rule stays the same regular season and postseason. That's one I would like to see. NFL rules that would change. I would like more 8:30 a.m. games on Sunday. I like waking up to football. I don't know. Honestly, I think the NFL. I like where the NFL games at. Just kind of the quality of play. Um, yeah, it's kind of a cop out answer. Like just stuff that I would like to see different. Oh, I've got a rule change. That
Yeah.
whole stupid rule where you're going out of bounds and it's a touchback in the end zone.
Wait,
You
what?
didn't on the fumbles.
On the fumbles?
Yeah, if a player fumbles it and it goes out of the back of the end zone, it goes to the other team and it goes to the 20. I don't like that rule.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't recover it. That's my thing. You should have to recover the
Correct.
football to get the ball back. You didn't recover. I mean, so if it was me, I would just be like, if it goes out of back of the end zone, the ball just goes where he fumbled it. That's just that's what I got for you.
I actually have another one. I had another thought, didn't write it down. So if we get to it, great. If not, oh well. But I do know what it is. I do know what it is, but I'll get to that in a second. NFL rules I would like to see changed. This is one that came to my mind, and I'm not really sure what it is. I live on the not East Coast, but Eastern Time Zone, and I'm gonna sound like a real old man here. That game was I was tired at the end of the Super Bowl, man. And it wasn't just the fact that it was in the overtime. I'm sitting here like, why are we waiting till 6:30 in the evening on the Eastern Time Zone to play this game? You could easily start it at 6 or 5:30 and it's a Sunday after. Nobody's doing anything Super Bowl Sunday. You say when the game's going to be played, great. Now for you, Phillip, if that game, let's say it's 5:30 Eastern, 4:30 in the afternoon for you might be great. I know you I know there were church responsibilities. I don't know if you go to church on Sunday evenings or not, but like if it's that time period for most people, 5:30 we're fine. I know they probably won't change it because it's 6:30 and all of a sudden 6:30 goes into 10:30 because the halftime show is long and all those things that go into longer games. But I may change the time of the game, but that's it. Here's what I got. This is not the original thought that I had in my head, but it goes into two things. Tony Romo slander, well, multiple things. Tony Romo slander, because I don't think he's good at his. I've never been a color commentator, so I don't know how difficult that job is. I just believe there are better people that have put their time in that are better at that job than Tony Romo is at that same job. Chris Fowler has worn on me. When he first took over for Brent Musburger, I was not a fan of him replacing Brent Musburger. I didn't know who it would have been on ESPN, but I didn't think Chris Fowler was the guy. But I saw on Twitter he ended up calling the game, I think was the United Kingdom? An English-speaking country. He called the game for that country. It was him, Louis Riddick, Dan Orlovsky called the game. Now, I know he won't go to CBS, but for CBS to fix their broadcasting, the number one broadcasting team, it's an easy fix. The guys who are number 2, make them number 1. I don't see any reason why Ian Eagle and Charles Davis should not be the number 1 team there. You can still have Jim Nantz there. He can still call games. But I don't see a reason why they should not promote those two guys to be the number 1 team. My first thought would have been Kevin Harlan because he's been around longer than Ian Eagle and has been, well, maybe around the same time period, but he's doing the thing on radio, so he's not going to give up the radio. He may give up the radio gig to call it on TV, but he's doing the radio every single year. I do think CBS needs to move away from Jim Nantz. I've said it to you before. Romo needs to be removed from the booth. Ian Eagle, Charles Davis need to call the biggest game on CBS every single week and need to call the Super Bowl the next time CBS has that broadcast.
Well, I would go get Greg Olson. I told you this off air.
You did.
Because I watched that guy do an interview on Dan Patrick. He still wants to be the number 1 guy somewhere. And I got to thinking about that. Where's he got an opportunity to do that? Because Fox is pretty much locked in now with Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady. We'll see how Tom does. Of course, ESPN with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. That's my favorite broadcast team is those two. Maybe because they've just been together so long, you can tell they're buddies, they're friends. It's NBC, Mike Tirico and Collinsworth. Maybe he could. I don't know. I feel like NBC is positioning Chris Sims to be the next analyst when Collinsworth is done. I just feel like that's how they're positioning him. I like Charles Davis. He used to do SEC stuff like way back in the day.
He did.
It was the old regional we had. It was called JP Sports. He was the sideline reporter. So I feel like Charles Davis has been around my whole life doing games.
Did he play at Tennessee? I think he played at Tennessee.
Yeah, defensive back. He was defensive back at Tennessee. I was a big arena football fan. So here's a funny story about Charles Davis. He used to on TNN. They would have a Sunday afternoon game. The voice of the Crimson Tide, Eli Gold, he did the games on there. He was a play-by-play guy. Well, Charles Davis filled in a couple of times with Eli Gold, and I will still remember the day when Eli Gold gave Charles Davis a stuffed elephant up there in the booth. The Alabama-Tennessee rivalry is always on. So, but yeah, I like Charles Davis, and of course, Iron Eagle's awesome. I mean, You've had him on this program several times, a couple times. Always great to hear his voice. So I don't know. I'm not trying to escape your question, but I just don't know what happens with Greg Olsen. I guess I don't know.
I just saw your chat. Did you get your other rule change idea in?
So as you know, I watched the alternative spring leagues.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't say this when you asked the question. One of my favorite things they do is they don't have an onside kick. They have a 4th and 12 play. So let's face it, especially in the NFL level, how often do we see onside kicks work? They restricted that, how you can do it so much. It's very rare that an onside kick works. Put it at the 28-yard line. You get to run basically a 4th and 12. You get it. You keep the ball. If not, they get the ball right there. I think it would add excitement. And, I would go with that rule change.
The one I will make, and we're going to wrap the show up with this. Hate's a strong word, Phillip. I don't want to use that. That's not it's not time to use that word. I strongly dislike the rule where players can call a fair catch, and I believe this is in the NFL too. Call a fair catch in the field, and then get the ball. I get the touchback. I don't believe that's only a college rule. I believe it's in the NFL too. Am I wrong?
I know it's in college. Yeah. Well, in the NFL, most kickers get it out of the end zone anyway. So we don't. I don't think if that is a rule in the NFL, we're never going to see it because they don't have returns in NFL. But yeah, I know for sure they do that in college. Yeah, I know
that needs to stop. That needs to stop. Forgive me, guys. I do more college football watching than NFL, so I just assumed that was a universal rule. But I could easily see that coming to the NFL down the road. And I want to get up out of here before I embarrass myself even more. Phillip, where can people follow you on X? Still weird saying that. And listen to your show.
You can check me out on social media. You sit down there, P. Jordan SEC. Check out the podcast over at wiregrassdailynews.com or wherever you get your podcast. And I stole this from somebody, but I'm going to use it here. Please leave a review on the show. And if you leave just 4 stars, you are just a straight up hater.
I love it, guys. You can follow me on X at jsteven07. Got more good stuff coming your way. There's a good chance there'll be a solo portion of this show coming on your feed later this week. We do a local spotlight here, Phillip, where we just highlight something locally in Indianapolis. In Indiana, primarily Indianapolis, and with the All-Star game coming to Indianapolis this weekend. I got a few thoughts I want to share about that event. That'll be coming in your feed later on this week, guys. This has been the Jay Stevens Podcast, episode 293. We'll see you next time.